In the Afghan city of Jalalabad, people are once again shaken, not just emotionally but literally, as another earthquake has struck the region. When we say back-to-back shocks, it paints a picture of a community already recovering from one tremor only to be jolted again by another. For the people of Jalalabad, this is not just a geological event, but a test of strength, patience, and faith. Earthquakes have a way of reminding humanity of how fragile our world is, and at the same time, how resilient people can be when they stand together. Let's take a closer look at what really happened. Earthquakes are caused by sudden movements beneath the Earth's surface, specifically along fault lines where tectonic plates meet. The ground beneath Jalalabad, like much of Afghanistan, lies in a seismically active zone because it sits near the boundary of the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates. When these plates collide, the stress builds up until it releases energy in the form of seismic waves, and that's what we feel as shaking on the surface. Now, when one quake happens, it sometimes triggers additional tremors, either as aftershocks or as separate seismic events. That's why Jalalabad faced this second earthquake so soon after the first, leaving people deeply unsettled. For someone unfamiliar with technical terms, think of it like this. Imagine pressing two hard objects together with so much pressure that eventually one slips. That sudden slip is the earthquake, and sometimes, once that first slip happens, the plates keep adjusting, creating new shifts that result in more earthquakes. Unfortunately, when this happens in populated areas, the consequences can be devastating. In Jalalabad, homes are often built with limited resources. Many families live in structures that are not reinforced with modern earthquake-resistant designs. So even a moderate quake can cause damage to walls, roofs, and foundations. People here rely heavily on their faith and community networks, because when natural disasters strike, it is often the neighbors and local mosques that first provide shelter, food, and comfort before any larger aid arrives. It is in moments like these that the unity and Islamic values of compassion, charity, and helping your brother in need shine most brightly. The fear that follows such events is not just about the ground shaking. Imagine being woken up in the middle of the night by the sound of rumbling, walls creaking, and the ground beneath you trembling. Children cry, elders struggle to move quickly, families rush outdoors to open spaces, praying that their homes don't collapse. Then, just when some calm is restored, another earthquake strikes. That's why we call it back-to-back shocks. The psychological toll is heavy. People are not only worried about immediate safety, but also about what the future holds, especially in a country already dealing with economic hardship, displacement, and rebuilding. From a scientific perspective, the intensity of earthquakes is measured using instruments called seismographs, which record the strength and duration of the tremors. The Richter scale is one way of describing the magnitude, though today seismologists often use the moment magnitude scale for more accuracy. A quake with a magnitude above 5 is strong enough to cause damage in areas with vulnerable housing. In Jalalabad's case, both quakes were strong enough to rattle nerves and structures, forcing families into the streets and open grounds for safety. It is important to remember that while scientists can measure earthquakes and even predict areas where they are likely, no one can say exactly when or where the next one will strike. That uncertainty adds to the anxiety for people in Jalalabad. Every aftershock, every tremor, even if small, brings back fear that a larger quake may follow. In the midst of this, faith plays a powerful role. In Islam, believers are taught that natural disasters are part of Allah's will and a reminder of our reliance on Him. Muslims are encouraged to respond with patience, prayer, and acts of kindness. After the quake, it is common to see communities gathering in prayer, asking for protection, forgiveness, and strength. Mosques often become not just places of worship, but centers of refuge, where families can gather together, find shelter, and share resources. The Quran teaches about standing together in times of trial, and this is seen clearly in the streets of Jalalabad, where neighbors share food, comfort one another, and help rebuild. What is remarkable is how resilient the Afghan people are. Despite decades of conflict, natural disasters, and economic struggles, communities like Jalalabad continue to rebuild after each setback. This resilience comes from deep-rooted traditions of hospitality, brotherhood, and reliance on Allah. Even in hardship, Muslims here remember to say Alhamdulillah, praising Allah for protection and for whatever blessings remain. That spirit is a lesson to the world. Even in the face of disasters, gratitude and faith can give people the strength to rise again. When we think about the science of earthquakes, it is fascinating and frightening at the same time. The Earth is constantly moving, its crust made up of giant plates that shift slowly over time. Most of the time we don't feel it. But when the pressure builds and is released, the result can be sudden and destructive. Afghanistan's position near major fault lines makes it one of the more earthquake-prone regions in the world. History shows that some of the deadliest quakes have struck this region, claiming lives and damaging entire cities. So when another quake hits Jalalabad, it is part of a larger geological pattern, but for the people living through it, it is deeply personal. Consider the children who may now be too scared to sleep indoors, the elderly who remember past disasters, the mothers worried about feeding their families while staying safe. These human stories are what turn scientific facts into lived reality. And when we watch news or videos of these events, it's important not to see just statistics of magnitude and damage, but to remember the people behind them, their struggles and their courage. At the same time, there is much the world can learn from these events. Preparedness can save lives. Simple steps like building earthquake-resistant structures, creating emergency plans for families, and educating children about what to do when the ground shakes can make a difference. Countries with more resources have invested in these measures, and the hope is that one day communities in Afghanistan can also have access to safer housing, early warning systems, and better infrastructure to withstand natural disasters. Until then, people depend heavily on their unity, their faith, and their determination to keep moving forward. When back-to-back earthquakes strike, it tests not only buildings, but also the spirit of the community. And in Jalalabad, that spirit has been tested again. Yet, if there is one thing that stands out, it is the unbreakable will of the Afghan people, guided by their faith in Allah and their trust in each other. Disasters like these remind us of the temporary nature of life on this earth and the importance of preparing for the hereafter, while also striving to support one another in this world.